Welcome to the Weed Out, where we weed out the ghouls in our local neighborhoods and try to get to the bottom of it. This week on the Weed Out, or this episode rather, whenever you're listening to it, is going to be part two of our interview practice sessions. We're gonna reverse the tables and talk to Joanna now, and I'm gonna ask some questions, and she's gonna tell us a little bit about herself and how this all ties in. And then we're also kind of working out how to interview and what feels right. So appreciate your feedback if you have the time to like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff on all the platforms. And I guess here we go. How are you doing today, Joanna?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. So I guess we'll start it off like pretty basic. Where were you born and raised, Joanna?
So I'm from Western Mass. I'm a native, but I'm from Pittsfield specifically. That's where I was born. And I lived there for the first 18 years of my life. Um, Pittsfield is like, I don't know, it's similar size to probably like Holyoke, or it's kind of like a little smaller than Worcester, but similar vibes for the
Population.
hmm.
What's the population?
Right now, so when I lived there when I was younger, it was like 40,000, but I bet it's more closer to 30 at this point. I'd have to look. I can post that. But it's like the biggest town in the Berkshire, or the biggest, it is a city, the biggest city in the Berkshires, but it's not like a big city, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah,
like a
it's like
New
kind of
England
rural, right?
town.
Some rural, like, it's a Berkshire town, but
Well,
like what?
yeah, and like I grew up on like a small kind of like a farm. So like I on the outskirts near where Hancock Shaker Village is located. So there are parts of Pittsfield that are like a little bit out of the way, but they have like a downtown and like a hotel and restaurants and all that, but it's not huge. But the Berkshires are also like kind of big, like land wise, but it's all mostly small towns. At 18, I moved to North Adams and went to school at Mass College of Liberal Arts, where I focused on psychology and women and gender studies. Then I moved to New York City and worked on a master's degree in psychology with a clinical focus. And then I moved back to Pittsfield for a while and like through parties. And all along the way, that's why it's total solidarity with Spencer and everyone in the food industry. I was always a server, bartender, whatever. So, and then I lived in Pittsfield for a while, but moved back to North Adams for a while. And then in 2013, I bounced out to the Northampton area and lived in Northampton for about 5 years. And then my partner that I own this home with and I moved to Montague in 2018. So we've been here for a while. And we'll see where we end up next. So like a rolling stone, but I do like Western Mass. It's hard to keep me away. And I'm pretty much here to stay too. There's lots of cool towns. I could name them all actually. So if you haven't been out this way and you're listening, make a trip. But yeah, so that's kind of where I was born and raised, the fast and dirty, if that makes sense.
What was it like, growing up in Pittsfield? Like, what was the vibe? Like, tell me about your friends or your family or your dad, or I don't know, just what was the vibe?
Definitely a working class, but there are like any town or place, like, people with more wealth or people who are more disenfranchised than others. Definitely got that like city feel. I went to public school, but I also was in, my parents went to an evangelical church that I would consider called the Assemblies of God. And so I pretty much like thought all my friends who were in public school who weren't in my cult were gonna like die and go to hell if they didn't become part of our cult. So like that was also like an underlying thing that kind of went through my head most of the time as a child.
When you say cult, like, I'm, just so the audience is like, that word is,
I know it's thrown around and I can try to clarify what I mean. That's
I
fair.
personally believe you, like, personally. The Catholic Church is more like the McDonald's of cults. That's how I feel about them. So it's like a little less culty just because it's so big. I guess I guess when something's so big, it's like, but so I didn't grow up in any evangelicals at all. And I knew people that left the church when it was not uncommon growing up. So I'm fascinated, but when I hear about Jehovah's Witnesses or evangelicals, especially not in the city, like a coastal city.
Yeah, so it was like super controlling in terms of like, my parents were just strict. Like I didn't do drugs as a young person because like that was unspeakable, and like I don't know, I wasn't afraid that they would like probably physically harm me, but like I didn't want to be in church counseling more than I was already in church even already. Or sent away, like your parents would just send you away to like one of those camps or something. So my parents were more chill than most, and they eventually left the church. But by the time I was 18, that is why I went to public school close by, because part of the church thing in general is to kind of get you, like what you said, or like, and you've said this in a different, your own interview about how like people who with parental connections where it gets weird, like the church would kind of convince you like your family was the only safe place, or going to like a Christian college. So like it was like a big step for me to be like, I'm going to a totally secular school.
Yeah.
I'm getting away from you. Like, and my mom and my dad were supportive, and like my mom was super supportive, and my dad was supportive in his own way. But they eventually left because my church came after me. Like when I left, that's why I kind of say it's a cult. Like when I left, they literally found things online in a chat room, from a chat room. I did say all the things. That's how I feel about it. So I will admit it. And who, if you elderly fuck listening to this ears, I did, excuse you, I did say some of that sexually perverse stuff that you sent to my father. But it was me, my best friend Nadine, who Spencer you kind of know through only through speaking together, but she's still a friend of mine from these days. And she was also personally attacked by the church because she left as well. And they sent this chat room. It was a bunch of kids just fooling around online together. It was me and like two boys from church saying just dumb things like, would you rather that game? It's like, and it was funny as all hell, but like it was perverse for these like adult church members to see. But so they made packets of it and then sent it around to like my dad, other people, the president of my friend Nadine's college. But one of the things that went out was the worst, and someone, it wasn't a church leader. It was someone from a youth group who was actually 18, but they like forged my actual signature and sent documents to Nadine's college trying to get her kicked out of college even. So there was a point where I was like, how would you ever expect me to come back too? Like I remember saying on the phone to one of the pastors, like the youth pastor, like, what about how you're acting would make me come back? And they were basically like, we sent papers to your father. And I'm like, yeah, I called him and he literally said to me, don't worry about that bullshit. I threw it out. So I was like, I'm not worried about my father. Like, this is insane. Don't threaten me with my dad, because in that church, like your dad was your, like, unless you were married off, like you're supposed to listen to my father, like submit to your head of your household. And I was just like, oh my God, my dad basically told me to tell you to go fuck yourself if I have to. Like, I don't know what to say. Please never call me again. So after that, I wasn't associated with the church. I will say a number of other people left because it was like that for a lot. Like if they would come for you if they thought you were stepping out. So it was nice to get away. But then I still was connected because for a while I had like close friends who still were from the church. So our parents, some people's parents still went. So it was weird. But then eventually especially by moving to grad school, like I kind of definitely was a wild child from like age 24, 25 to like 27. Just because like that was the phase where I was like finally on my own, and like I lived in the middle of New York City. So when I was working on my master's degree, I don't know, I would go clubbing. I really just would let loose. And the church really kind of suppressed me and a lot of my friends a lot, if that makes sense.
That sounds like some Salem witch trial shit.
Oh
Like,
my God, dude. It was so
he's a
crazy. I
witch.
can't
She's
even, it's like a
talking-
whole episode I could go on, you know?
So what happened to the boys?
From
Let's break that.
church.
The boys that were in the chat as well, not just you.
Oh, well, they were in trouble too, I think. I just don't remember because
Admit they'll never watch pornography again. Like I
so
saw
no, they turned us in. So what they did was they were like, they turned in the documents to the church leaders and were like, look what we got these girls to talk about. And because they turned it in, they were like forgiven because they asked for forgiveness.
wow, that's some dark shit.
Dude, it was so nuts. And that's not even the worst thing that happened. Like mine's like not that.
Like talk about like
Mine's like a low key one. But I was only like 18. It was scary. They're like
government,
pastors of a church. What?
like these boys. It's like hearing the FBI doing a drug deal. It's like, wait, how can that be fucking legal?
They were such, I just
Well, they
couldn't.
gotta entrap them. And then the shame starts at like, your like that's what happens to you at puberty. It's
Yeah, the shaming of your body for women starts like immediately, but also
sexuality.
normalizing that you're going to allow like a gross older dude potentially to like court you. You know what I mean? It's
Or
weird.
just the fact that the boys were participating in this and then narked y'all out. And then they're the good.
Yeah. They
It's
were
like
trying to, it was like
you were
entrapment.
hilarious. That's like the siren on the rocks defense. Like we crashed into the rocks because the hot ladies on the rocks. Like, right? Am I breaking that metaphor down?
No,
Right?
I don't even know. I feel like it was such a crazy, like, I don't know. Like maybe, like I just couldn't, I mean, it's just, I think it was fueled by like hate and anger because these two gentlemen, one of them was a gay man now and just like told us years later that he just didn't like us. But that like what the church breeds to just like tell on people too, though. Like you said, like reporting them and stuff. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about that stuff in Scientology or whatever. I mean,
Right. And mine's like, and again, there were other abuses in my church that I won't get into now that were because the Catholic Church is so widespread, it's not unbelievable. But
no,
it was
it's
like very fucked
church.
up. So like
First
that,
thing is how high up the chain it goes.
yeah.
Like, your evangelical mission church, like their footprint's only so big.
Well, yeah, and they are connected. Like Assemblies of God is a pretty decent sized sect of the evangelical church in the country. One of the John Ashcroft under Bush Cheney, he was from that sect of evangelical Christianity. So like it's out there. It's like the Teds, like the Swaggerts and like those types of people would all like and like what was the other? Like all those evangelical like there's the 700 Club, Pat Robertson. They're the type of Christians that would also talk to them, but not the same. But that's like the type of evangelical it kind of was. Like very sensational, hellfire and brimstone, like the types of pageants or things that we would be like subjected to in and of itself were traumatizing, if that makes sense.
It does sound traumatizing. I
I
mean,
had to start having like therapy for anxiety at like age 5. And when my parents wondered why, like as an adult now, I'm just like, how could you wonder why? Like some of the stuff was so out there. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's crazy. So speaking, since I just want to butt in here with like this Roman Catholic versus all these other sects of evangelicals. What's interesting is, so like right now they're kind of aligned, right?
Yes. Well, the sect of like very conservative Catholics, because some aren't, are
Yeah,
very aligned with the evangelical fundamentalist Christians, which is terrifying.
yeah. I mean, our Supreme Court is mostly Catholics.
Yeah, but I was shocked until meeting you because like my grandma and my grandpa were like kind of chill Catholics and like I mean there are Catholics that aren't like completely like fundamentalist evangelicals. Like as long as you're not like hating on me.
McDonald's, it's just like something. It's like got punch cards. Like it's all
Well, some
very
people just go to like, like their holiday Catholics. You know what I mean?
about it's about like performative Christianity, and it's very like it's very American. I like can't really explain it any other way. Like when you're in the Roman Catholic Church, it's very like corporate. Does that make sense?
It does. Like I was Catholic for like 2 years of my life, but I don't really remember it fully. I just remember going a couple times.
And they run on free to cheap labor. Like if you're like say the masses, right? Like, they're the lecterns,
Oh,
the
that's every church. Like literally our churches and the Jehovah's Witnesses are some church cults
I
are
did it.
even cults are like really good at it even more.
I mean, I did it because my mom was like, you need to learn how to public speak. I mean, my mom's so craven that's why. But anyways, this is supposed to be about you, so forgive me. But
You're fine.
uh,
That's a connection that we have. I would say like definitely like although that you were raised in like a very authoritarian Catholic way, I was raised in a very authoritarian evangelical sect where I was consistently asking questions like why about why are men able to do this and I'm not? Why is this happening? Why can't I say why do I have to submit to someone about that? Why are we all having to wear the same or not able to wear this or that? Because, eventually when, like you said, when you hit puberty, like if you didn't, one day I remember being so excited because I could sing on stage for the worship team because someone was out sick and I was like starting to sound like an adult in an adult choir. And I really loved singing. Like I liked music too, like a lot. And I really liked vocal stuff mostly. And I remember I was like pulled aside by like my friend's mom, who I really loved. Like she was really nice. And she was just like, your skirt is too short for you to be on stage. Like another adult pointed it out. And I wanted to say to everyone in the audience, like I was basically the same size as I am now, maybe a little bit thinner, but I'm a chubby girl. I'm a curvy lady, but like it was not a suggestive skirt in any way. It went to just above my knee, maybe like an inch or two. It was like a plaid skirt with like probably had like a black t-shirt on. I was probably like 15 or 16. I remember just being like, oh my God. But so apparently like a bunch of adults that didn't like it apparently and complained when they heard I was going to be the one going on stage. And then so someone else's daughter, like the next person, they were like, well, Sarah is dressed appropriately, so she will be able to join the
right.
worship team. And I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean the whole dress
And that
code.
was just how it was. Like it was just a weird situation. Like you were constantly judged.
And the dress code shit's so insidious.
And I dressed up so much because that was the other thing about church. Like I dressed like a Southern debutante. Like I would curl my hair, wear dresses. Like that was like, but it was like Easter Sunday every Sunday. It was like kind of the style. It was weird. It was
Yeah,
very Southerny.
the built-in body dysmorphia,
Mm.
like built-in like self hatred of yourself, and like the sexification of any woman
Oh
with
my God.
like just be like it's like when you I don't know if you've seen the TikTok sound, but it's like, are you saying that I'm showing off my boobs, or is it the fact that I just have boobs? Like,
Well, like even that skirt, like I'm 16, 17, my skirt's to my knee. Like how long should it be for me to be like not inappropriate? Do you know what I mean?
right. I mean, it's arbitrary. And this is, this was my issue with the dress code was they did this thing, my two sisters. So like, they couldn't have their skirt more. My sister Morgan, the middle child, always loved pushing it just to push the envelope. So she was like literally, she would always push the dress code, like how close to the knee can she get it?
Yeah,
Like,
and I never did that. So that's why I was so mad. Like I knew so many girls that did that. I felt so upset that day. Like I was always the chubby little like girl that was wearing exactly what she needed to. So I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I just want to remember being like, fuck, what the fuck?
yeah, I mean, it's just fucked up. Like, and like,
It's a way to just take power from you, I feel like, and make you just feel like shit.
and it totally tracks because on the other side the boys have rules too, but they're completely arbitrary. They're not like, they don't even have a reason, like you don't want to look too sexy. They're completely
Right.
arbitrary.
Ours are fucked. Yeah,
you
like
know how
ours
many,
are related to weird stuff. Yeah.
detentions, afternoons, like forced labor I had to do at high school? Because at my high school, when you got a detention, you had to clean trash, and you had to do a chore basically for an hour. And that was the punishment. And you would be late for your extracurriculars or just like fuck shit up, right? So I got so many for belt violation. And like I'm a little sensory, right? Like I never liked wearing a belt. I'd wear it, but like I pushed it like I would like be putting it on like at the last possible minute. Like it would be my backpack, right? But yeah, I mean it's just but it's completely arbitrary. But the girls, they would say, oh, it's like they sexualize them. It's fucking weird, right?
Well, but that leads into like all the other trauma, like basically from church was sexual based just because of what they do to women specifically too. Like you're told like basically once your father's not the head of your household, like your husband will be, and you're not worth anything unless you're married, and like you need to have kids, but like so you need to have sex only to basically breed, and like they make sex seem scary.
Right.
So like I don't know, man. Like it's really crazy. Like a lot of my friends had like therapy for just like sexual issues for like 10, 15 years after leaving that fucking place. So there's that too.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I mean, that's why when people want to know things about that type of religion or background about it, like I've talked to different professors of religion even, and like they've been like, you should write a book that's like a topic people need to know more about. And like I tried with a few of my friends. We have like some notes from before the pandemic, but when the pandemic started, it got to be so hard to go back to, kind of like it was almost re-traumatizing, if that even makes sense.
Yeah.
That we just like didn't, we just put it on hold because it's a lot of it's really good. And like it was like a community when I was really little of like a lot of fun things were like, but then you think also like, okay, it was fun in a way, but like you were forced to perform in like plays, and like I don't know, you were basically taught to become little missionaries, and like it's just very interesting. So that's my background kind of in that respect
They're
too.
calling it a cult because of all the indoctrination
Yeah, that's
tech.
why I kind of say that, because it was indoctrination. It was like, we believed in like interesting things like being slain in the spirit, speaking in tongues. I've been to a revival where it was on 2020. You can look it up on YouTube and find some clips from it. It's actually really interesting. So at 14 years old.
Why do you think you always asked why?
Because eventually, so I was very inquisitive as a child. Like I was very interested in the answers of why, like literally. So like, and I immediately, once I kind of, because you're always hearing about like when people die or whatever in church, kind of. So I remember at like probably 3, I didn't understand death, but I knew that it meant like you didn't come back. And so like I always wondered like, okay, well, why? And then like so anytime anything seemed like unfathomable, I would want like more answers. And then eventually when questions seemed like, well, women can't do that, it would be like, well, I don't understand, because I think I probably can do what you're doing. So like eventually by 12 or 13, because I did go to public school, thankfully in some ways, which was helpful. I didn't go for a year. I did go to a Christian school, semi-affiliated with my school. And I would just say it's only because it's like it's a fundamentalist type of church, Christian fundamentalist. So similar. But they don't have all the same beliefs, like speaking in tongues and being slain in the spirit, which is pretty extreme in revivals. So, um, but yeah, I think the public school aspect, my mom had been raised like not a very like liberal conservative Democrat Catholic. So like in some ways she encouraged me to read, and she was really not interested in me going to like a Christian college. So I think because of like being interested in answers and asking questions, like eventually when people would get mad at me for it, it would make me want to ask more questions. I know that's kind of antagonistic on my end, but at school my teacher could give me a reason, and sometimes at church people couldn't. So then it's like, okay,
Why?
why? Yeah. And like so I was definitely eventually, I'm a very typically like people would have described me as a very easygoing child who was great to get along with. I emceed even. I was that's why when I left, I'm just like, F you guys. Cause I was such a studious, like good member of the community. I would MC like children's vacation Bible school. I was a Sunday school teacher. I did it as much service as I could, and like also tried to be like, living life because they really want you involved in there like five or more times a week. So it's a lot. And the judgment's really heavy. So eventually I guess the question was like, is this really what I believe? Do I believe in a skyman? Do I believe when I die that I'm going to hell because these people say it? Or like I basically like a lot of my friends started being gay, not a lot, but like a good portion, and they like the way the church treated them,
And then they were
they
cautious.
were they were like ostracized completely. And then you question like, okay, I grew up with you, like why would you be going to quote unquote hell just because of this thing? Like it just started to make no sense. And you talk to your friends, like I said, my friend Nadine, who I talk about, like shout out to Nadine. Nads was her nickname in Nads was her nickname in high school because we couldn't say bad words, so we would make up words that were
Sounded,
funny to us and that adults didn't understand.
that's the whole deal with prohibition.
They're
You know,
so the adults are so
prohibition,
annoying.
when people, yeah, I mean, whether it's the dress code or alcohol
Just
or
like fuck y'all.
marijuana prohibition, like, you know, this might be a good time to remind everybody, like, we jokingly call this the weed out because we smoke weed a lot, but mostly because, you know, it's been the best anti-anxiety med that we works for people like us.
It just works for us, and that's okay if it doesn't work for you. But
We also like gardens.
I love gardens. We both have gardens.
And hey, a reminder, gardening is it's an act of revolution, you know, growing your own food, getting even if it's just to like do it, just to do it. It doesn't have to sustain you. You don't have to make a big thing of it. Just grow something that you can eat, and it's an act of revolution.
Maybe I'll make a video on how to plant some herbs in your kitchen for your garden because guys, he's right. Like
Remember, whenever you're confused, YouTube.
that's especially true. I'm trying to propagate lavender right now, and I'm really hoping it works. But I don't have root hormone. I'm using. I can't get into it, but I'm root for me, everyone. I'm hoping I propagated lavender because
So the
that is
weed
a
art is a
whew.
3 times multiplier. It's about, like, you know, our belief in the decriminalization of marijuana, and then also gardens, and also our ghouls.
It's true.
um, I guess maybe this is a good time to remind everybody that, you know, it's good to support local media. And you know, a little break in the interview here. Talk about, we just started a Patreon, or we're getting one up. Joanna is more in charge of that.
We
Well,
do have one up. Don't have any we don't have any supporters yet or people that are contributing, which is fine because right now we're really working that out. Yeah.
and you know, we're just, it's less important, but if you
It
do,
is important though long term. So
oh,
we will
absolutely,
have campaigns, I think.
we would love a cashless state, but you know,
But here we are. I mean,
and we can do what we can do now, but we'd like to do more, and
totally.
we would like to grow and bring in other voices, because, you know, there's other skills out there.
Well, and even like purchase, so like hosting the website, purchasing like equipment, like, and this is like I said, like I have a job, but
And we
this
believe in radical transparency, so we're gonna we
we'll let
show,
you know what we spend money on. We'll have our receipts. Yeah.
and it's, you know, we're not an MLM. We're not going to turn into Jimmy Dore. And if that might be a cut, sorry for anybody that didn't get that reference, but basically we're not here to grift.
Yeah, we're not stealing money. We're just asking for help to contain and continue what we have and maybe grow more.
And our goal is to have other contributors and other people to bring their voices, because we are just two white people that have the time and the privilege to do this, and we would like to sustainably bring some new perspective, especially in an era where, you know, newspapers are what they are. Most media is owned by like 5 companies, 6 companies.
Yeah,
90%
it's very
media
small amount.
companies like Disney, you know, Paramount, yada yada yada. There's only 6 of them. They all have different labels underneath them, but it's no different than the food thing. So it's kind of like supporting us is an act of revolution. But we're going to be, our goal isn't just to make content. we're going to do mutual aid. We're trying to figure out what's the next best step so we can start helping the community immediately. And we need to be flexible and nimble, so we don't have we have a couple burners going with different ideas, but we want to hit the ground running and help our community in any way we can.
For sure.
So yeah, thank you for humoring us, and if you want to help us out, for now we don't have any tiers set up on Patreon. Is that what you were saying, Joanna?
No, so we have some tiers set up, but we don't have anyone contributing yet. And we haven't made any extra content. So like honestly, anyone just contributing even one time would help us just honestly with equipment we need, getting more and better content out there, being able to even pay others to help with editing or, teaching us skills because we're just learning as we go and doing things as we go. Like I don't have a communications background, but I have a slight background in doing some design work and some work with like content creation and otherwise. So I think, like we definitely have like bills already, just small ones for the things we're doing, but we want to get bigger and better. Mutual aid projects definitely are another thing that we can get grants for, but we'll need to have patrons and subscribers help us with too. So Spencer's right, like listen for more information, I guess, coming down the pike. For sure.
Yeah, we're working people, so we're getting to things, and we're also making sure we find our joy and take care of ourselves.
Everybody should be
It's really
trying to do
important.
that.
I just want to remind everyone. But you can't, and if you can't contribute, listening is great. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with us. Like, subscribe, yada yada yada, all that stuff too. That's helpful. So it doesn't have to be a cash contribution. Or if you have any ideas of things like, hit us up with tips, something going on in Western Mass that you know of. Maybe give us a tip and we can go from there. Collaborate. Let's be radical, cool folk.
Yeah, no, definitely share with us. I mean, that's a great suggestion. We would love to
This
hear
is
from it.
we want to be cooperative, and we don't want to own anybody's content, but we want to help proliferate and create. So um that's where we come from here. So if you got a little extra money spare, kick it to our Patreon. If
For
not,
sure. And we can share that.
that's
Like
helpful too.
I can share that in the links for this episode for sure.
So yeah, now that we've taken a little break, we can go back and we can finish up our interview. Joanna, how do you feel about that?
That works.
So you asked me a similar question to this. How do you survive the capitalist hellscape that is now, and how did you get to where you're at? Whether that's your occupation, it's a pretty vague question. I like
It is. It is.
so
Gives me options.
yeah, I guess I'll kind of react on what you feel like sharing, because I know a lot about you, but it's it's not my place to say. So
So I work, I'm gonna say I work at a university in Western Massachusetts, in research compliance. It's super interesting to me, and I
what do you
think,
mean to me? Does that mean like it's boring to everybody else or something?
well, I feel like when I say like, okay, so first of all, my partner that I live with and own my house with, whom I love very much, Caleb, he's a brewer, and so I'm like, you're a butcher. So like when people talk to you or him or even your beautiful partner Bridget, she's your wife, she like she's a social worker, like people understand those words like immediately. But I'm an IRB analyst, so usually people's eyes just glaze over, but it stands for Institutional Review Board. So I work on research ethics in human subject research projects for students, faculty, staff, etc., under the purview of our federal licensure, or I guess like federal assurances as it is called. And it is something I have been doing since now I'm trying to think back, 2014. I first worked at a different college in Western Mass. After moving out this way, before that, I was the manager of Amherst Brewing Company for a short period of time. One of the managers, there were a few of us. I've been a bartender, a bar manager, a restaurant manager, server. I've been a recruiter at a local educational testing place. So I ended up in higher ed though eventually because bartending was really hard physically, like you've stated, Spencer. Like the service industry is really difficult and it's torn. So like I had my background in what I have it in and a master's in psychology with a clinical focus. And I had worked with review boards when I worked on research in college. So I knew that these jobs existed. They're kind of niche is all. So I saw one in Springfield eventually and applied there when we were living in Northampton. And then eventually I saw one open up at UMass in 2015. But I saw a position open up here, so I moved up to this way because it was closer to where I live. But I think it's really interesting because it's research and that's something I've always been interested in, like the why, and research can sometimes give us answers to those questions, at least to some degree. So it's still it's something I do during the day. I work remotely since the pandemic and recently fully remotely, which I'm really thankful for and I feel really grateful for, even though I really love my coworkers. It provides me with flexibility and a lot of them are mostly remote or fully remote already too. So it's kind of nice. I don't know, and that's kind of where I am now. And I have extra time because I do work less than 40 hours a week under my contract. So I have time to work on you with things, and I don't know. I guess that's how I survive this hellscape in terms of like financially and sometimes mentally. If that makes sense.
Basically been a transparency expert. And or quality control. I mean, with the restaurant experience, when you're a manager
Totally.
or anybody that's like an expediter or head bartender, whatever you end up doing in the restaurant industry, it's quality control. So it sounds like you do something, to just a guy who lifts shit up and down all day. It sounds like you do something that's really important, especially when it comes to research. That's why because of redundancy and transparency, what do you call it, mechanisms like your office. That's why UMass can be a research one. Is that what they
Yeah,
classify?
they're an R1 institution. So like a lot of the,
The best as far as research goes.
yeah, it is.
So if you see a study from UMass, there's a lot of scrutiny, because it's public dollars too. There's a lot more transparency. And it also just in general, their data is better than anything that comes from a cop. So, and your data can, your all those processes in the research facilities, it works similarly in my mind how in theory the USDA facilities work at slaughterhouses. It's like it's got to be done a certain way to prevent the spread of this issue.
Yeah, so we definitely have procedures. And that's why I think for people, when I joke, like when you ask, thank you for saying what you're saying, because I joke, like people sometimes just their eyes glaze over because it's definitely more like, I'm making sure people are compliant with federal, state, local, and institutional regulatory things. And yes, as a bartender and all of those other things, I did similar trainings and manager and all those things. But it just isn't a fun, it's hard to talk about in a very fun way, but it is important still, yes.
Right.
But
Um,
as things like that go.
so in your current role, you make a good enough living, where, and you've mentioned before that if somebody wants to look up how much you make, they could find out because you work for a public institution.
I do, yeah. The state has that as the like as an option for people to see what we make. and I am part of a union. So yeah,
What your job does, though, it's very minutia based and small. It's actually it's one of many things that are important when it comes to research and how research moves our world, right? And how decisions and policy are made. And think about, like, you make roughly the same amount of money as a cop with a 13-week certificate. And you
I
have
know, isn't that crazy? I know that's a. I mean, those things radicalize me for sure.
for
There's
yeah,
so many things.
and that, like, think about it, without the people doing jobs like yours in that industry, chemical products, etc., whatever comes through a research one facility that then gets okayed to be used, like, that can kill lots of people, and we're paying these people peanuts compared to the people that run around with a gun.
Right. And it's
Or
crazy.
C student high school graduates.
I'm still paid better than like so private schools. Like I have a I have union access at least through the public schools. So I was paid less at the private institution I worked at, like much less. And I will thank the union and the public sector for the benefits and pay that I have. And you're right, it's definitely good. Like I'm between that and having a partner and friends and family who at least would like not let me become completely desolate, I guess, that one accident away type thing. Yeah, I think I'm in a position where I can use some of my free time to use my voice. Again, I like I mentioned with my childhood, I was trained to perform. So I don't mind trying to use my voice or whatever it may be to kind of get messages out there. I like organizing. I've been involved in organizing, event planning, like large scale event planning, especially different mutual aid or art projects over the course of my life. I managed a burlesque troupe even. So I'm excited for what we can work on together moving forward. And I don't know, I guess those are all just things that kind of will shape how we're able to do that too.
And what pushed you over the edge, or pushed you to do what we're doing now, or even write for the shoestring? What is your past with doing things like this? Is this new to you, or like, why did you feel that you and I should start collaborating on this?
I'd say in terms of activism, it's definitely not new to me. When I left the church, I immediately was like, I will vote for every Republican or every Democrat. Like I would have been like vote blue no matter who, definitely, which now I'm not saying don't do that, but I just really was like, I need to vote for the person that's not gonna like uplift the white Christian nationalists. So I got really like interested in politics at that age, like really young, because I felt like it was at least a way that I could try to get things to change would be like my using my voice and knowing what was going on and then voting and getting to ask people why or asking people for help, especially if they're elected politicians. So that was something I was always really interested in. When I saw that we had local media, independent media with the shoestring happening and that they would cover stories about the police that are being covered by other local entities like the Recorder or Mass Live, but in a different way and in a different tone where it's not necessarily in the tone of a police press release. And I don't think every newspaper article out here is like that, but the shoestring just isn't like that at all. So the opportunity to be able to write with them was really enticing. And you and I already as friends talk about these issues quite a bit and like share a lot of like values that align with what we would write about, so that made a lot of sense. And then this podcast makes sense because I don't know, I'm not a man, I'm still a woman, and I was raised in a very authoritarian culture with that. Although I was taught to perform, I was also taught to perform what I was told to perform. So being able to use my own voice and let others know that they are welcome to use theirs, and that I hope I hear theirs, and that maybe that they'll be on this one episode with us sometime so they can share their story or share information about something important. It gives me hope. It makes me happy. And yeah, that's pretty much it there, I guess.
Well, I mean, I appreciate all of that. I personally have never really been involved in politics personally, other than, you know, more recently. I mean, I've always paid attention, I guess, but I never volunteered or did campaigning. But you have even tried to participate by running.
Oh
You know,
yeah, I ran for office too.
you lost
Yes,
by one vote in your town, one vote,
I
and
did. I ran for office in Montague. I did for select board.
you could have pulled a Trump. You could have called him and said, "I need."
I know. I could have asked for a recount, but the thing is, I know Deb, the town clerk. She's a wonderful lady. And our town is 8,000 people. And the person that won, Matt Lord, I mean, he's a person that I have a lot of shared values with, except about defunding the police, it seems. So I think for my town, as sad as it is, it was one vote, and I don't know, the recount thing. And then, you know, in all honesty, I thought about it, and I would have been elected in like September, October. Things are meant to be. Because
So
I ended up having a very terrible accident, and it would have ended up laying me out of a lot of votes. So I wouldn't have wanted that for the town either. So
right, yeah. I mean,
but yes, I did run because I feel like, as I've organized before, I've event planned. And a lot of those are a lot of the skills you need when running a campaign. And
right.
I like social media, engaging with others, talking to people, you know, I like photos and all that stuff. So I don't know. I like creating content. I think it's fun and interesting, and sharing things with people is fun. And government's really boring, but it's what happens like with our money. I'm really interested in like, oh, okay, I pay taxes in this town. Like, what are we using it for?
And this is where
So
we say, like, what I was trying to say. I've said in the past, like, this is the left right dynamic kind of bullshit, because it's this like orb of like, sometimes you fall into the conservative hands-on approach, you know, like some people are into that, right? And that's a good thing to have. It's a good, like, it doesn't mean you're like a ghoul, you know, that you don't want anybody to get their money. You're just like,
oh yeah,
let's.
no. I just see like ways that I see like, I mean, as like any business owner would, I think, and I don't consider it a business, but as anyone would when you look at a budget, like there are always things you can improve on. And it's not the only reason I'm radicalized, but like in our towns, if we're paying taxes and it's local, at least especially in that respect, you have a vote over like how some things are really like impacting your own community. So I mean, I say I naively ran for office because I thought maybe I would win, but it's okay. Like I got to meet a ton of people in town. But yeah, one vote. So I mean, to run if you feel like you can. I mean, it was hard, but it was worth it in many ways too.
So I
And
guess.
thank you for helping me in that when I had that campaign, because I had a lot of friends and people helping me. It was funded by myself, self-funded by me and family and friends and the community members that really took lawn signs or let me, you know, come and speak, or the farmers market staff and the community garden staff, you know, people on the ground. And I won the districts that where all the working class people live because, you know, we really connected every week. So it was a good experience.
And I have personally, other than like, you know, knowing a couple people have run for office, and interacted with, you know, canvassers, that's like where my um involvement historically has been with political campaigns. So seeing somebody like you or other people run these campaigns, it's a reminder that electoralism isn't a bad thing. Our electoral system is very flawed,
Very flawed.
very
Very flawed.
purposely flawed. It's working completely as intended. But regardless, your overall point I like about well, the closest thing to true democracy you're ever going to get is your town politics.
For real. It really, really is. Like, it could be that I lost by one vote. It really could. I know it sounds crazy, but like it really could. I trust my town, and I mean, what even the person that won said they wished it was by a different margin, because it does kind of suck that it was only one vote. But I mean, like,
Perfect scenario, but it is what it is. And the point is, you don't have to run for, I guess what I want to always tell our audience is like it doesn't start and end with electoralism, but it's a way,
no.
it is a tool.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you want to run and have it, and it's hard. If you want to run and feel like you can do it, please do it. If you want to do that, like, it's a good experience if you're interested in putting yourself out there in that way. It's a lot of time and it takes a lot out of you, and there are people pushing back and things that happen that are upsetting along the way. But if you feel like you have it in you, great. If you don't, I mean,
I
that's
get,
okay too. I get it.
I mean, if you just look at
I'm
the
not going to run again, I don't think, for
history,
now.
there's plenty of examples of voting not being an option or of like a real thing. So why believe in it? And I always, the marginalized communities, I mean, if you're so voter suppressed, what is the fucking point? Or they're just gonna throw out ballots anyways. Like, there's,
Right.
and that's unfortunately a reality in a lot of parts of this country. But there's also other ways to make your community better. It doesn't Electoralism isn't it doesn't start and end there. It's just a tool.
Totally. Like when I was running for select board, that's how I met all of the mutual aided community groups that are up here in this area, especially in Montague, but even in Franklin County in general. And they had great ideas, different things they're working on. The community gardens alone, such an awesome um resource in our community. The farmers market's so great.
Yeah, and this is the idea of community, right? I mean,
Yeah, you just meet people, you meet your neighbors, you have shared values. Like, I at least know that all those people that voted for Matt and I, like I said, our values are very much aligned.
right.
That doesn't mean that they aren't reachable down the road, at least. So it's not like they voted for like
The
a
opposite.
super right wing Republican. No, they just voted for like someone who has most of the values that I have, except for they don't feel like our town police officers need to be defunded. And I do fully believe that every police station needs to be defunded, because it's taking money away from really important parts of our community when crime waves are used to scare us. And I just, it's another, we have episodes on why I believe this, but yeah.
And the thing is with losing that election, there's also the added baggage when you've been in this town, and you've broken civility politic rules with some of these people. So
I
real
definitely have, or I've been connected to other political people in town that have completely. So I have a little,
but that's still wrong. I mean,
I
like,
know.
just because you've told them they're wrong on something at public comment one time, or somebody that and have similar values to, like, it's kind of like, why are you punishing me for them? And also, like, why are you punishing them for saying, like, you're burning my money? Fuck you.
Right.
you know so it's tough, and it's possible that's because maybe one of those votes was possibly a town selectman or the
Right.
or the town manager. you know uh
Right.
and not, hey, that's as It's Always Sunny says, hey, that's politics, bitch.
I know.
But part of it is because, like, you got to play by these fucking ghoulish, like, civility politics. I mean, we've had conversations with other women that have been local politicians around here, and that's kind of what they get to. Like, you can't get anything done unless you play by the rules.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
process.
People lay them right out. People lay them right out for you too.
You and I have had been in, in our activism and our time together. We've had multiple conversations with female leaders who basically told us we're not going to get anywhere if we don't act right.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been hearing that my whole life.
Paraphrasing in the way that they were genuinely trying. They were trying to give advice, but that's how I think I know I took it. I think you took it similarly, right?
Yeah, I think because I've been hearing that my whole life. Like you have to act this way or this terrible or that terrible or whatever will happen. It's just a tool
I
to like literally,
acknowledge you.
yeah, it's to keep me quiet in some way. And that's why I like speaking to the audience and speaking on my, thoughts or feelings or even on research that we usually cite with you about different topics because it's just like I don't want even I know those women mean well, but they in a way are like passive aggressively telling me to be quiet.
Right. You're generally
Like I'm pretty like I'm easy. I feel
sugar first, vinegar at last
I'm
resort.
pretty easy to talk to. So like if you push me to be unfun for you to
Right.
speak with,
Straight
you
for
need to
the,
search your soul, honey, because
I go straight for the pickling juice. That's my thing. Salty, sweet, and vinegar.
I
And then
hear you. It's just, I mean, you tell me, you're saying I'm right. Like, if you
no,
push me to
I,
that limit and you feel like, oh my God, Joanna,
I think what
feels like you're being a little bit of a bitch. It's like, well, what did you say then? What did you do? Like, I don't know.
I feel like you're kind of the not in our activism or our movement, you're generally the Hugh Honey to my Vic Vinegar, another.
It's true.
So it's like if somebody's gotten you to the point, like you generally try to play up the role of like understanding, reasonable.
Yeah,
Um,
we can usually figure it out together.
that's also your training in your schooling with psychology and stuff and kind of understanding baseline how people's brain works, and yeah, that's been beaten into you more and more. As me, I'm just like bah.
Yeah, it's true. We definitely have like a different approach, but that's why I say that. Like, if people feel that way, it's either you're not getting to know me, which is fine. I'm sorry if I come off that way. And so the only way it's informed me in moving forward is like, I definitely feel like I'm a much more intentional, kinder person with my words. And, I think if people reach out to me, they would find that to be the case. I'm quiet sometimes because I'm actually just shy and I have super bad social anxiety sometimes. So that's a misinterpretation of my bitchiness. But so I try to be friendly. Sometimes I actually make myself smile. I used to practice smiling when I worked in the hospitality industry, everyone. So there's a while like on my Instagram account where I just wouldn't smile at all. And men, of course, would always make comments. So it's just one of those funny things. And then, and tying it into abolition, I guess, abolition I think about as something where I'm also abolishing social norms at the end of the day. For me, it started out as prison abolition, but then like you connect the dots. Like who fills the prisons? Police fill the prisons. What's that system look like? Then you're horrified.
Then you realize it all goes back to misogyny, patriarchy, and just
Right. And
hierarchy.
then my church was like that. So you just start getting, you're like connecting all the dots. You're like, oh my goodness.
Well, you can't, the reason, these issues, like I was saying earlier in my industry, where it's like, yeah, sexism's a fucking problem, dude. It also doesn't help that there's no women, and I wonder why there's no fucking women. It's totally jobs women can do. I mean,
Right.
it's not inherently manly. I've met many strong, capable women. It's that
You know
that
one right here.
yeah, right. And that's like inherently sexist too. It's just like I've also known 5'3", 130-pound dudes who could like work like a goddamn workhorse. Like that's
Right.
dumb. It's such a dumb thing. Like I have also seen 300-pound, 6'3" guys move around a kitchen like a ballerina. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
I'm a normal sized dude who's a bull in a china shop. So it's like, it's just funny when it's like people are different. Everybody brings their own thing.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So abolishing those norms, man, that's a
That's
wrap.
one of the big ones for me too. I know it is for you as well. Thank you for being my
Yeah, but
friend.
I get to,
Solidarity in that.
this is the reality. I get to take time off. I mean, if I want to and just disengage, I mean, I try not to, but like I'm a white dude. Like I have a beard. Like I say this all the time. Like I can just wear a hoodie and sweatpants and just like slide in and out of anything if I need to. You know, like I can get out of social events pretty in and out. Like it's like I can become like Jim in the office just doing his appearances. I'm not that way, but like I can always slip into that because dude, the world's built for me, you know? So I don't even have to like if I don't want to wear my mask, I don't have to, because then I'll just be a gruff, mysterious dude. Like
Yeah.
how is that's like not a bad thing in our society. It's just a thing. It's not good, not bad. And so I don't know. It's just like I like working with other people. I don't like I've said this, you know, in my place of business. Like I wish there were women here. Like the restaurants I worked in that were managed by women and or most like you know majority women, they were some of the best work environments.
Yeah.
And that's not exclusive because they're women. It's just like the reality was there wasn't an element of having to manage toxic men because it was kind of kept in check.
No,
And
I know what you're talking about in the industry
so like even though there were
completely.
dudes there who were probably problematic, but because we were just outnumbered, basically, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
other
And
dudes
there's a
knowing
point.
numbers, doing the numbers game, like subconsciously, who would normally just look the other way, you know, the good cops, you know, who look the other way. All of a sudden, if you have people that take that stuff seriously, whether in management or as like a culture of the restaurant, the sexism problem really kind of takes care of itself. I mean, it's not perfect. I mean, there was a chef at one of these restaurants I worked at, and it was the first time we had a male chef there in a long time, and he was a fucking problem. Like he was a problem.
So many chefs, man. So many kitchen problems.
He was like, I don't know. I can't accuse him of anything, but he was a bad dude. Like
I
he would,
get it. There's so many issues in the industry. Probably
everybody,
worse back then.
but thankfully, because of the culture there, it wasn't. It was made a really uncomfortable place for him to be,
Oh,
and
yeah, that's good.
I crossed my fingers that nobody was a victim of his. Um, but
Me
you know,
too.
I like what I can't accuse. I don't have any credible. He didn't last very long, and it's a good thing. It was kind of dealt with.
Right.
It goes back to the whole thing. It's like you know when people are yeah, I've generally working with a mixed group is better personally in my experiences. I guess what it's at and in taking people's strengths and it's really it's nice that you're you know trying to challenge these norms you know from a coding woman you know you're blonde petite you know blonde woman you know kind of you could be a Karen if you wanted to you know what I mean
Hmm. Yeah.
and the fact that you
I'm a formidable Karen, I bet too.
right, you know that's a superpower
Powers for good, I guess. Whatever they are. They're very small. I don't really have powers. I'm learning that like just like I'm so thankful that I didn't have to submit to
well you know how to
culture that was like taught to me as a child, I guess. Thank God. Ooh, thank
power
whatever.
your superpower is like you know how to read research, you know how to critical think, and that's what you bring to this podcast, Substack, this media thing we're doing. Is and I appreciate that as somebody that's those aren't my skill sets, you know. My skill set is more networking and um, you know maybe doing the talking part. That's like kind of my thing, but um, I no man's an island, right? So
Yeah, for sure. I
your
love them
superpowers
working
can also
together.
like you know I understand the importance of good data right but like my brain just I don't you know I don't have access to these systems day in day out so you're just so quick at it um and you know what to look for and I've learned a lot is what I'm saying I've learned a lot so um and
I I
that's really
appreciate that, Spencer.
life
I appreciate that.
you're kind of you're the backstop there and that's great you know um but you know other than abolition right and like trying you know as part of abolition joy is a really big thing so like what do you do to offset all the kind of that in life like how do you
So so without being, you're right. So without being, because that's one of my favorite things to remind everyone around me that I'm close to.
it doesn't mean you have to be dour all the time just
No, I like, and so without being like toxic positivity, I do kind of be like, remember to be grateful. Gratitude is something that drives me, the things that I can be grateful for in life. There's usually something. Like I said, I don't not like my day job. I love the work we do together on things. I also have awesome friends. You're a great friend, and Your wife's a wonderful person. My friends back home, and those farther away that listen every week, thank you. I love you. And you sustain me. Like people who are good and caring, and even if we only talk every few weeks, love is a big one for me. I get joy there. I love gardening, so we brought that up earlier. I love cloning plants, gardening. I like decorating my old New England farmhouse, like, old lady chic with like baskets and floral things that I try myself. I like side of the road farm stands, you guys. I'm that type of girl. So, I really like fashion to a certain degree. That was a big passion of mine before. So if I can dress up and have fun and go out with my friends or have like a fun dinner, like I've mentioned, Spencer said in like his interview that he doesn't love, being a cook or coming up in the menu, but he is a great cook. And like I like to cook sometimes, but mostly bake. So like sometimes it's fun if we all have dinner, and I have a couple other friends who are chefs, and it's fun to go visit them at their restaurants. So I really like that type of experience, just delicious food experiences. I don't know. I like to just find joy wherever I can, like taking a walk on a nice day by myself and just viewing what there is to view in nature is honestly a joy for me. So I just urge everyone to take moments for yourself and find the joy even in little tiny things. And that really sustains me long term.
Yeah, I mean, and we have different things that give us joy.
Oh yeah, everyone. Mine are not what may sustain you.
The eating part is important. Remember, like, don't break bread with Nazis,
Yeah,
and
I love breaking bread with people I love. That's the
breaking
big
bread in
one.
general is good. I mean, I'm not a Catholic or Christian anymore, but there's a reason that the food keeps getting brought up in the Bible. It's really important, and this is
And in this podcast.
yeah. I mean, I'm a cheese and sausage kind of guy, but like
Yeah, and,
also I like veggies. I like vegetables.
but we like to have, and breaking bread's fun with the people you love. Like I said, it's just a good time. So, and
Kind
it's
of a
getting to be that season. Getting to be that. What'd you say?
said I'm a big fan of crudité.
Okay.
I like,
You're giving me the menu for like the next dinner party here.
right. I haven't had turkey on Thanksgiving in a long time.
We could do maybe this year.
I don't know, but and the food is
Same page right now, though. I just literally was going to Thanksgiving. What's for Thanksgiving? So same page.
when I was a kid, I used to love just like I would. That was always the thing I would think about. It's like, oh, Christmas is coming, and
I know, but Thanksgiving too,
that means like on Christmas Eve, my dad makes shrimp cocktail, and that's fancy and expensive.
right?
So
And yummy. Mm-hmm.
I was a weird kid who liked shrimp at like 5. Like,
I liked seafood like that too at a young age. Because my mom was in the service industry and would take me to like fancy places. That's interesting.
my dad, I would
Loved
eat
clams too.
clams as a kid, and I still do. But
I
like I would
still do too.
drink like pickle juice, dude. I would like, if there was like one pickle spear left, I'd drink the pickle juice. Like I've always been kind of savage with that shit.
Food savage. I feel the same way. I'm like, okay, if we're
But
gonna dine, let's dine.
yeah, and like, it's good. I mean, food makes you feel good.
It's fun. It's definitely fun.
If you can. And um, so maybe this be everybody's homework assignment at home listening. Plan some food with something or somebody you like, whether it's an animal, like, my dog.
Yeah.
My dog can't get off my butt if I'm eating popcorn. He's just so far. He's like surgically
He
attached.
likes the crunchy, maybe.
It's the salt and the butter, man.
Oh, that makes sense.
He's a dog like that. But
He's a cute dog.
or eat an ice cream cone by yourself in your car while you cry. I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying. Whatever gets you like, a moment of joy, try to get it.
so yeah, I mean, I guess thanks for listening to our interview episodes, letting us kind of let you get to know us and understand where we're coming from and why. It gives context to everything, right, Joanna?
Yeah, for sure. And if you have questions, let us know. There's definitely more to us completely, but um it's
And
just nice to get to talk to you a little more.
absolutely. And maybe you'll have listen to us in the future, and you'll understand why we have little patience to cult behavior, uh,
For real.
authoritarians in general.
For
So
real.
for example, elections, everybody, elections are next week. Um,
Yeah, early voting's already happening.
I put in my ballot, and I had a vote. Seeing more Healy on there versus Jeff Deal, it's like, man,
I know.
a lot holding your nose. So vote, don't vote. Remember, it is a tool we can use, and unfortunately, we need to get out of this shared delusion. And we can do better. And in the meantime, have the cookie. Go for the walk.
Yeah. Go for a walk, have a cookie, don't go for a walk. Movement is a good suggestion, but just be easy on yourself, especially this season at least.
And as always, please follow us on social media. Visit our website where all our episodes with our citations are. We always bring the receipts. And please follow us on social media if you're so inclined. Um, we're looking to make more content down the line, more video based. But that requires time and equipment and other things like that. So please, if you feeling like contributing to our Patreon, visit our Patreon. All these things are linked on our link tree or on our website. But regardless, if you don't have the funds to contribute to the Weed Out and see where we go with our content and diversify our content, you can always just like and subscribe. I mean, that's helpful too. And
Definitely, that would be awesome.
tell your friends and literally explain it to them. It's like, hey, if you're ever feeling like you wonder why things are the way they are, and you just don't, you're not always in the mood to hear it. But when you are in the mood to think or hear some people have some wild ideas, we don't think they're wild, but for the normies, for the shared delusionals, they are. So please, if you can't donate or contribute rather, um, tell a friend. There's lots of ways to help. Just like growing your own food is a revolutionary act. Telling your friends about the weed ad is a revolutionary act. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.